Hi everybody, welcome back. Part 2 of the Crusader rebuild. It's a quick look at where we left off last week. Welding areas we've had to cut off. We're going to go right to where we left off, behind the rudder stock. So we cut this area off that had been measured out to be quite thin. The more we cut out, the more we saw how thin it was. That's about 2 millimeters, 2.5 millimeters. Andres and I are having a discussion about cutting off a lot more of it. Whilst Andres is doing that, I've begun on priming. This is a Sigma prime. We've got to get it on as soon as possible. The longer we wait, the more rust builds up. The routine has so far just been every morning, get up, scrub the bottom, wash everything down so that we can work. Now we're at the stage where we have to prime this boat. We don't, however, have to prime in real time, so here we go. These little patches that you see, these little round discs, are previous repairs done about probably 10 years ago, last time she was hauled out. So what they did was they took a piece of round steel, stuck some sort of epoxy on it, slapped it over the hole and welded along the outside edge, and then they repeated that on the inside. It's not a great repair, and I wouldn't have done it that way, but they are working, they don't leak, and we don't have the time to cut them all out, so that's potentially a future endeavor. But we will treat it just like any other part of the hull and prime them and get them ready. How good does that look? My apologies for my lack of camera awareness. Let's take a look around and see where we're at. We've primed most of the port side under the waterline. I've left space for areas where we still have to go in and do some more welding. There are little pinholes along the welding seam that need to be repaired. We'll grind those out shortly and redo that. Then there is the rudder. Unfortunately, you're not going to get to see that. I couldn't find any footage of us priming the rudder. There's the patch, the rudder stock, and on the transom. Dave's been working ahead, going over and priming all of the welding seams for the patches we did do on the starboard side. We're just about ready to move along to this side. This is the sun side of the boat, so she should be drier, and we still have to wash a lot of the rust off. Have a look at that. That is rust. That is 1 day old rust. So we do wash, as I said, every morning. We didn't do this side, but we did the day before, and all of that rust has grown overnight. Look after your steel, people. This is Dave coming in with a grinding disc and just opening up those welding seams a little bit where we've seen pinholes through. We'll come and run a new bead, stick weld over that seam, but grind all the carbon out. We don't want that rusting away on us later. This is a rust converter over the welding seams on the rudder, and that's somebody inside, I think Andres, welding that plate closed. We had to cut quite a bit more out of there. I've come along and faired all of these little areas that we've patched and primed over some of them that were done the day before. Here we go, rudder freshly painted. That has been painted with coal tar epoxy. It's like a 7:1 ratio of mix, and it dries as sort of tacky, but very good for raw metal. Starboard side, same thing. Lots of patches, lots of fairing, lots of fixes. Now up on the tow rail, we're coming along with a chipping hammer and just try to get as much rust off of this as possible. It's not looking great. Dave will come along after he's done with the chipping hammer and bring the needle descaling gun and do a really good job on that. I'll then prime it with a Rust-Oleum rust converter spray. It should deal with the majority of the problem. This tow rail was just welded on by one of the previous owners many years ago, and it hasn't fared well. It definitely has to go, but we're not going to have time to do that in this haul out. This is day 12 and we still have so much more to do. Port side is particularly bad. We've cut off some chunks of the tow rail, but we'll show you soon just how bad it really is. The rust from the hull is particularly bad. We'll prime all of that. We've tried sanding it, it doesn't really come off. So to buy us time, we'll give it a light sanding and then we'll prime over it. Here we go. Rust converter really looks better after coming through with the needle descaler. We'll then prime this with a 2-part epoxy primer. I think we're using International Interguard. At least we can prevent it from getting worse once we do go back in the water. It'll make next year's job a hell of a lot easier. This is why we don't have the time to cut it all out. I'll hand you over to Dave, he'll show you. That is not ideal. Shouldn't be able to have to look inside your boat unless through a porthole. So we're going to cut all of that out. From the underside on the inside, it's just as bad. So I'll prepare a plate, we'll cut this all out on the hull side and on the deck side, and we'll weld in a new plate. It's worth it. Priming on the transom has been done. I'll come along and fair that shortly. And I've primed all of yesterday's faired areas. They've been sanded already, and I think I've even added a few more. The problem is, the more you look, the more you find. Here's our patch. Hull is gone. The rudder presents a bit of a problem. We can't just paint straight on to coal tar epoxy. It'll bleed through, and with 2-part paints it's not really going to help. Coal tar takes ages to dry. It never really dries. It remains somewhat tacky and needs to breathe. So this is a 1-part primer from International, Silver Prime, and we need this layer before we put the anti-foul on. Again, all of this work on the rudder is just to protect it while the boat's in the water. We will make a new rudder, but a little bit of effort to make life easier for us when we take her out of the water in a year or two's time to do the rest of the work. More fairing. There's always so much more fairing to be done, and consequently more sanding. The rudder looks good though. Fairing on the transom and just above the rudder stock. This is just the first batch, it's still wet, it needs to dry. We've done some fairing and fixes along the hull. Toe rail's been primed. Anything we can do to prevent it from getting worse over the next year or so, until we replace sections of the toe rail and the deck. Another patch repaired and faired. Port side toe rail also been primed, and we're just about ready to do a first coat primer topside. This stuff does not sand off. I think I took about half a day, and right here is the best I could do. So I'll give everything a very light sanding and then prime it. The nose is also looking pretty good. We're not going to fair this or fix it at all. That can be done from the docks in the water. This is the first coat of primer on the starboard side. Makes a bit of a difference, doesn't it? Almost starts looking like a boat. This dries pretty quickly and we can overcoat it in about an hour. So I'll start prepping for the top coat. Can't wait. Go. Top coat time. I've done the entire forward side, making my way towards midship, and she looks great already. This is just the first coat. Top coat is Sigma Cover 550. It's a pretty easy paint to work with, but it does have its idiosyncrasies. We do need to be careful how you blend it, or else it'll leave streaks from your roller. A good mohair roller, nice short hair. It looks great. I've been looking forward to doing this for about a week and a half. But alright, let's fast forward this. I would have ideally loved to have sprayed, it would have saved us so much time. But the yacht does not allow people to use a spray gun, so it's manual all the way. really is amazing how good it looks. Just one little coat. Starting to look like a grown-up boat. I'm convinced this is the first top coat that this boat has had in at least 20 years. Somewhere there's a picture of Crusader in 1997. Same logo up front, same stain marks on the side. So potentially even longer than 20 years. And just like that, the entire port side's got its first coat of top coat. Working on the transom now. Let's take a walk around. Off camera we did the starboard side. Boy, doesn't that look great. Definitely needs another coat. You can still see through some of the marks. You can still see the writing in the back on the transom. She really does look much better. We'll overcoat this the next day. But we've only got 4 days left at this point to get the boat in the water. And there's still plenty more to do. Here's a quick view inside. The hull has been primed with coal to epoxy. We've done this over all the areas on the inside where we've had to cut out. Transom underneath the rudder stock and steering area. This is where Dave was needling last week, covered in dust and grime. This will all get neatened up and painted. And then finally, the last priming in the area that I fed on the transom and above the rudder stroke. That'll get its final coat later in the day. We're almost ready for the tie coat, but you'll have to wait until next week to see that. Thank you everybody for coming and joining. Please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!